Majic Mike in that mix. Very, very, very serious program we have right now. Serious interview. We got my man Law, legendary artist right here. Very multi-talented. What's going on, my brother?
What's going on, brother? Glad to be here, man. I'm blessed and living my best life, man. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Excellent. Man, what a fight to get this interview, huh?
Hey, man. Sometimes you got to go through it to get to it, man. I'm from that world, so I know.
Of course. So right now you're in New York City, correct?
Yes, I am. Oh, yeah.
Now, are you a resident there? Were you born and raised there?
Yep. Born and raised, Brooklyn, St. Mark's Avenue, Crown Heights, Albany Projects. Born and raised, even though Cali and Detroit are my second and third homes, but, New York is the place where I dwell, man. That's home, sweet home.
Now, I know that, the legendary George Clinton, the godfather of funk, right? He took you under his wing there for a minute. Let's talk a little bit about that, right? You're working personally hand on hand with George Clinton here. That must have been an adventure, a story to be told. You should write a book about that.
I'm actually writing a book about my life in general, but the great part about working with George, because I've been wanting to work with him since I was 10 years old, because I knew that besides Prince and Stevie Wonder, if it was anybody that could understand the musical chaos going on in my mind in a good way, it would be him, because George had this ability to mix all these things together. And George, unlike most old school musicians from that era, George really supported the youth, man. Like all the guys in P-Funk.
No, I want to know one thing. How did he make them instruments sound digital at that time? Because you listen to some of the stuff now and it's like, how was he doing that? And he had the claps and everything else like that.
Because, here's the thing. George was always, he was always ahead of his time. He was always forward thinking. He was willing to take risks in the studio that most producers weren't doing. That's why if you notice when him and Bernie and Bootsy started doing all this stuff, all the other funk bands began to copy them. Listen to the Gap Band's Oops Upside Your Head. Charlie Wilson is basically imitating George Clinton. Welcome to station WGAP. We got, that whole thing. He was, not biting. He was really, he was copying George, because all the funk bands in between all that were influenced by P-Funk.
Of course, you got EPMD, you got to chill. You know what I mean? That's that whole loop.
Well,
that 5-second loop right there.
But here's the thing, though. Well, first of all, you guys to chill. That's not even. Well, I mean, it is P-Funk, but that's Zapp and Roger Troutman. But that was produced by P-Funk, so it's the same. It's pretty much under the same umbrella.
George Clinton is the godfather of funk, so that's his material, regardless. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying.
It all makes sense, but it's just like I always try to make sure people know the difference, because people are running that. I'm like, no, you got to get the actual title. But the thing is that, George always was ahead of his time, even back in the 60s, because he was doing things that were very unconventional while still keeping the traditional sense of what was going on. George always knew how to make certain things work that a lot of producers couldn't figure out. And once he did it, everybody began doing their own version of it. Like most things that happen, when a style comes out, anybody that comes out with a new style or a new way of doing things, it becomes that template. I always tell people, James Brown created the funk, Sly and the Family Stone diversified the funk, but it was George Clinton and P-Funk that made funk religion. They took it to a level that we've never seen it before and haven't seen since.
Can I tell you something? I like how you said that, right? Because there's certain ways how I mix and blend my mixes, right, or my DJ mixes, and just how I conduct my radio program. And I see a lot of big time. Even like I'm not saying that, I see a lot of big majors. I've been in the game for 20 years using some of my technical, techniques there, right? But it's all good, what I mean? It's all good. It's like it's a compliment, right?
Well, of course. I mean, that's I mean, look, it's the old saying goes, imitation is the best form of flattery. And everybody gets something from somebody, man. No idea is really original. I mean, when you think about all the different parts of what reggae would become, and you look at the roots of ska and all that stuff, everything has a thing. So it's almost like why does it sound like so-and-so? I said, because there's no way you can talk about reggae and not discuss, you know, Peter Tosh or Bob Marley or any of those sort of things. So it's almost like, okay, these are all replicas. And then when the British bands got a hold of ska, like Madness, One Step Beyond and all that stuff, and Fishbone and Bad Brains, all they did was take ska and reggae, and then they threw all the heavy metal stuff in there.
So it's like, you just hit, you know what, you're like me, my brother, right? We're into all types of music.
Yes, we are.
Like I used to be a skateboarder, right? Late 80s, early 90s, right? And up here in Canada, you know, I mean, that wasn't too common for brothers to be doing that, right? But this one band, Bad Brains, really caught me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I used to build my skateboards to that, skate to that, right? And how they had, you know, the reggae, nice melodic, and all of a sudden they go back to the thrash. You know what I mean? Like amazing brothers right there. So when you're in New York City, you were, you know, listening to, you know what I mean, rock and all types of forms of music.
Right in the hood, because you gotta remember, Living Color is from my side. They're from my town. They're from Utica Avenue, and Vernon Reed is from St. Mark's. That's my big bro. Like Vernon Reed is from St. Mark's Avenue, which is where I'm from. So people don't understand. It's the same way that you can look at Neil Young and Rick James. They were in a group together before they became who they became. You dig what I'm saying? So it's almost like the universal part of it, where it shifts because of everybody doing what they love. And then that's the hood. We from the ghetto. We from the straight project slums, the whole bit. But my family was my Juilliard for music, because everybody in my family loved different kinds of music, even if we loved all of it. So it's the same prospect of everything else. So of course, as a kid, you know, my primary roots are definitely gospel, R&B, and of course, because my legendary grandfather, blues and early rock and roll, because all his friends were all the doo-wop groups, you know, the Drifters, the Olympics. Those are his buddies. That's guys who he toured with. So these were people that used to visit the house when my mother and them was little. So pop, heavy metal. Now reggae not necessarily, because reggae was, of course, way before the 80s came along. But of course, as we all know, when dance hall reggae began to make this uprising, Can I ask you something?
Can I ask you something, brother? You living in New York City, right? There's a lot of Caribbean people. My parents are from the Caribbean. I wanted to ask you something. What's your background? Like what's your background?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What's your background?
Well, first of all, of course, I'm African, Native American, because I'm Cherokee, Blackfoot, and Sioux, and I also have West Indian, Jamaican blood. So
I knew that. As soon as you started talking about reggae and how passionate you were about it, it's like, hey, he's from New York City. He's definitely got to have Caribbean blood in him. How far back is the West Indian blood? Is it like is your grandfather West Indian? Is your mother? Like how far back does it go? Because this is very important what we're talking about right here.
I think it's more so on my father's side, so because I didn't get a chance to really explore it with my granddad. But on my father's side, definitely, because that's where the name comes from. Worrell. It comes from my father's family. You know, he's number 6 of 15 kids. So that's like, you know, I have a lot of cousins. You know, a lot of them I'm close to. So it's like we talk about this all the time. It's like certain things that we're trying to explain, but then of course Mississippi blood, because my father's from North Carolina, Mississippi, and you know, all that. So I'm a city boy with Southern root too. So it's a lot of things going on with me, but I acknowledge all of it, because to me it is all Black derivative. I am who I am, and I don't question it. I don't argue about it. And you know, there's been this conversation about, oh well, these people. I said, listen, whether Caribbean, African, or any part of it, we are all one nation. So you have to understand that as long as we have this right here, as long as we have this, we are all targets of the same shit. So it's almost like that separate. I never was in that separation BS. Like that doesn't, you know, it's stupid to me. I'm like, if we're rolling together and they try to infringe upon us and come at us, they're not going to just come at you because you're from here or you're from there. As far as they're concerned, we're all that. So guess what? If we don't stand and fight together, how the hell are we looking? You feel me? So it's almost like we look stupid.
I like how you pointed that out. Another thing is self-hate too, as well, right? Where, you know, you may have people that look like us, but they're not in our best intention. You know what I mean?
They don't want to claim it. They don't want to say it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. It's a beautiful time to be Black right now. It's our time. You know what I mean?
Man, I've been this. Look, my mother's a former Black Panther. I've been woke before woke was woke. So you gotta understand, like, see, woke is a catchphrase now, but The first book I read that gave me more knowledge to who I was and knowledge to myself was a book that my mother gave me called Before the Mayflower. Okay. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave it at that. I was in 4th grade when I read that book. So
wow.
This whole thing.
Brother, you're lucky, right? Because a lot of us brothers and sisters, we don't have parents like that. A lot of them, you know, no disrespect. A lot of them go to church and, you know what I mean? They live
we're Christians.
No. But listen, what I'm saying. They go to church. Yeah, they live that quiet life and they ignore things. You know what I'm saying? They ignore.
Yeah, we never did.
You know what I mean? But nah, brother. Like when I started getting into my teenage years, you know, the whole, you know, black movement thing, the whole wearing of, you know, the dashikis
medallions
and medallions back in the early 90s, right? So that's one thing I love about hip hop and just urban music. Back then, it gave us something to look forward to. Big up to Public Enemy. Public Enemy is my favorite rap group of all time. What do you think of that new album by Public Enemy? Let's review this right now. You here with me?
Listen,
you're a musical god, right? Like there's so much you've done. Like you even got over 40 licensed songs, right? You know, up on MTV, VH1. You've got tracks in the NBA. I'm pretty sure when the players come out, Bravo, you know, A&E, Oxygen, the list goes on. Even PS3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What game was that? Dance Battle.
Dance Battle Versus, yes.
Dance Battle Versus, you know what I mean? So what's your opinion on that, what I just said?
What, with Public Enemy? Or,
yeah, but with their album, man. Like,
listen, first and foremost, let me just say this real quick. I learned more about Black history from a Public Enemy record than I ever did in school. Let's just get that straight.
Of course.
Number 2, they're my number 2 favorite groups. That shows you how much I listen to them. So that's pretty much in the top 5 as far as hip-hop groups is concerned, without question. For me, NWA is number 1. I love NWA. But
oh, my God. Brother, just stop there for a minute. NWA and Public Enemy are both my, like, you know what I'm saying? Oh, my God. We think the same line. Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to tell you what it is.
Go ahead.
Let me tell you what it is. The reason why we're connecting right now is because your energy, we're both rebels. And the thing is just that I grew up in the sense of, I remember, let's go back a little bit further to what you said about my family. My minister uncle, see, this is what made my uncle cool. He was a minister. The thing is that, you know, we weren't, you know, he didn't teach the white Jesus prosthetic. He didn't teach that in church. He taught the realness through the word. But my uncle was very scientific and very pro-black. And his, the pastors have chambers. In his chambers, he had the Bible, he had the Quran, he had the, he studied. He was multifaceted.
And so you know what? That's a lot of things. People are ignorant because they don't study other people's cultures.
It made me listen to my, and then because you remember, my uncle used to be a hustler. He used to hustle. He used to work for the mob. He used to work with in Miami. So his worldview, when he became a real minister, because it wasn't a hustle, he became a real minister.
Of course,
he studied the word and led a lot of people. But the thing is that I led through his example. That's why I didn't have that study when we talked about church. I said no, because the thing with us is that he always taught about quantum physics in church. Because quantum physics is in the Bible, believe it or not.
You know what I mean? So that is very interesting. You know what I mean? What you were saying, you know what I mean, about there's an awakening right now, my brother. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't hide it anymore. You can't hide what's going on. What was in the dark is now in the light.
You can't fool Mother Nature, man.
Right now, because of COVID, we're all on the same level right now. You know what I'm saying? Like people got their money stripped. All the artists are on the same level. You could be independent to major. We're all on the same level right now because a lot of these majors are heading off to YouTube, making podcasts now, right? And a lot of the majors now are looking at all the independent artists and doing deals with them because they know, right? So what's going to happen is when the world opens back up, it's going to be a different world. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a lot of these artists that you grew up listening to are not going to be around. A lot of these actors, you know what I mean? Just the whole industry, half the industry will not be around. So a lot of these independent guys like myself and you as well, because, you know what I mean, you're one of the gatekeepers, we're going to be one of the ones leading.
Wow, that's an honor. Thank you.
No, but I really believe, well, yeah, look who you were. Like, man, I can go on here. You were George Clinton. Man, who else you got? You're all over the place.
I mean, but
you're in the song. Listen, you're in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Look, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well,
we can go on here.
No. Here's the thing. I'm not in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. I did what they did was, here's the thing with Songwriters Hall of Fame. I'm the first hip hop based artist to play the annual event that they used to have, because what I did, you know what it is?
That's still history. That's still history. That's still history being made right there.
No. Listen, it is what it is. It is what it is. It is history. But the thing is that you got to understand, the reason why I was able to make those kind of moves historically is because, first of all, I wasn't trying to hear the word no. That's just me. Number two, on top of all that, what made me different is because, yeah, I look the part. You know, there's the hat, there's the hoodie,
yeah,
there's the whole Brooklyn swag, whatever you want to call it. But the thing was that I had a trick for their ass. I played instruments. I could play 8-minute guitar solos. I can choreograph. I can produce. I'm a real songwriter. I can tell I'm a real singer. I can tell a singer when the pitch is off or something is weird in the thing, unless it's somebody like me that thinks like I do musically. So that's what separated me. Because you got to remember, the whole attitude towards hip hop was always this, that's easy. They just rap. I'm like, yeah, guess again. Like there's a whole nother different sheriff. So the thing is that it prepared me for my future very early because, like I said, Prince and Stevie Wonder and George Clinton are the first three entities I looked at because all three, first of all, George influenced those two guys. So for me, it's like, let's see, Law, you play all these instruments. And I only did that because basically I would be bored in the house when I would live with my grandfather because he had a bass there. Drums are my first instrument, so that was really a natural thing for me. My mother bought me a Casio keyboard, so I self-taught myself how to play piano and chop out different chords and things like that. It's really about preparing. I knew the future in my mindset. I'm like, Law, you don't want to be depending on a whole bunch of people to play your stuff. I mean, of course, you're going to have a band on stage, but in the studio, I don't want to wait for so-and-so to show up. The person might get an ego and be like, well, I'm so-and-so. I'm not coming to this session until 2 o'clock. I don't got time. I'm like, I'm not waiting for nobody. So guess what Law's going to do?
He's going to do it on himself. He's going to do it himself.
I don't have time. So for me, mentally, it was almost like I'm not waiting for anybody. And what it did for me was that it turned me into a madman, positive-wise. It turned me into a madman because it was like, I'm in the studio learning production. I'm getting better at it. And then the whole thing about it was that by the time I turned 17, I was producing vocals for my mother in the studio. So I knew how to get around certain things and how to make things work. So later on in life, like 2020, the situation that we are right now, like I told you, when the news hit about COVID, of course, I was worried and concerned because I love to perform. But I'm like, well, you know what, Law? You already known as a performer. They already know what you bring to the stage. And guess what? You got all this equipment in the house right now. You got GarageBand, you got your Kai keyboard set up, you got a USB mic. Guess what? Get better at your engineering. And that's what I did over the course of time. What I did was I basically got better. And my thing is to any artist and musician, all this time that we've been on lockdown, if you didn't develop a better skill, if you're not better at what you've been doing, because you never stop growing. That's what people mess up at. You never stop growing and learning and advancing. Every day I learn something new about my voice. Every day I learn something new about my guitar playing. Even the way I rap certain words, like I learned, I'm like, okay, I can bend this a little bit better than I did the first time. So it's like, if you weren't developing, because I'm an introvert with extreme extrovert tendencies. When I'm out, I'm out. When I'm wilding out, when I'm there, I'm in the mix. Like my friends will tell you, when I'm in the mix, I'm in the mix. But when I'm home, I'm Mr. DVD, remote control, video games, sleep, a lot of meditation, a lot of laughing, a lot of, just being in one, because I love being at home, because when I have to be out, I'm out. So for me, it wasn't even a thing. I'm just like, okay, this is what's going on. The universe is going to reset itself. Okay, that's what, Law. You got things to do. You have things to do. You ain't got time to be sitting here just being depressed,
Here's another question for you.
Go for it.
Like you just said, right? If we come out of this COVID and you haven't improved at anything, I know artists right now in my city that waited all the way to just say, I don't know, 3 weeks ago to release a single, okay? First single that they put out. And it's not even a video. It's just a video of words to the song. And the single wasn't even that good. It's like, okay, you're popping off and all of a sudden you waited this whole time and this comes out. You know what I mean? So to me, like, that's not really putting in no work. You know what I'm saying? Because when things open up, what, you got one little single with words? You know what I mean?
That's most of the industry now. Like,
you know what I mean? Yeah, that's what's going on.
This is I took a picture of my shirt off. Here's the funny thing. Some real stuff. I put up a whole bunch of pictures on Instagram and I just put one of my shirt off. I promise you on my children, I did not expect the one with my shirt off to get a whole lot of views. I wasn't trying to go for that. I was being me like I normally am. I don't do that all the time. I don't take off my shirt every day. Every now and then I do it. I have fun. But the thing was just that got the most likes and happy birthday. So who am I to argue?
For sure.
And mind you, I'm not, listen, I don't have
no
damn
hey, my brother, did you check
sick, but
did you check your Spotify? How many listens you got after? Because sometimes that, you know what I mean?
Every day, man.
Sometimes your ish pops up in the Instagram Explorer. You know what I mean? He's like, "What? Who's this, man? His shirt's off." And he does music, and all of a sudden people are checking it out. But yeah, it's crazy right now with social media. You got this brand new track. Let's talk about music now. You got this brand new track called "Party Like We Used to."
Okay, let's do it.
You know what I mean? Who does that feature?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Who produced it? Who's
that
the feature?
Features my incredible. Well, I produced it. I wrote it, and of course, my co-star, co-writer of the track, my homie for life, Mr. Roger Ortega. You know, that's my brother right there from Kansas City. You know, we've been doing things together for some time now. We formed a unit called the Troublemakers, and I first appeared on his record. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. I appeared on his record first, which was "She's Breaking Necks" off his classic Lottery album. So of course, he returned the favor. I had this track that I did. It had a real serious retro vibe to it, and I didn't want to do it alone. I'm like, you know what? Let me throw Roger on this one with me, because I think he would be perfect for me to help send the message, because I always loved his voice and his and I played everything, of course. I produced the record, but of course he wrote his verse as well. So it's just a feel-good party music, you know, especially in the times like this. That's why I'll be noticing the bridge that says, I know some things have changed, but some things remain the same. And that's always been a phrase that we've always said, because no matter what the situation is, when we get a chance to come together, we should be partying like we used to. That's why I said, hey, girl, don't you hear that sound? Put your cell phone down. Because that's annoying. When the music is playing and people are jamming, I see people on their cell phones. It's like, man, are you serious?
Talking about that track, Party Like We Used to, and like, you know what I mean? It's a banger right there. So how can they get a hold of you? Like, what's your social media? Like, you have Instagram. We spoke about, you know, you took your shirt off and your Instagram was popping, right? But what do you got? You got TikTok, Instagram. What do you got?
I got everything, man. I'm on Instagram at Planet 12 Law. I'm on Twitter at Planet 12 Law. Of course, Facebook.com/LawPlanet12. I'm on TikTok, Planet 12 Law. So I'm all over, man. Like, I don't spare no expense in terms of making sure that the Planet 12 movement has everything that they're supposed to have. So.
All right. So what about your Spotify? Where can they listen to your music? You got SoundCloud?
Oh, well, yeah, of course. iTunes, Spotify. They can look me up at L*A*W.
Okay.
They can find me under Law.
So what do they call you, Law? Like, how did you get that name?
Syndrome.
How'd you get that name, Law?
Oh, okay. Well, you know, first of all, it's broken up into 3 sections. I'll break it down to you real quickly. LAW, first part of it means lyrical assault weapon. That's the hip hop side of me, because, you know, and growing up in the streets, when it came down to rapping, it was all about battling. And I was one of the top battlers in my neighborhood and in my school. So my whole point of being able to spit my head off and verbally murder somebody on the spot, freestyle or whatever the case may be, like, your Law's like a damn assault weapon. And, you know, Moni Love is one of my biggest influences. So my rapping part of me rapping fast and being articulate was one of my strengths. So they call me like lyrical assault weapon. I'm like, I like that. Then the second part of LAW means loving all women, because basically my R&B side never gave way to the rap side. So, and back then, I mean, girls like the way that I rap, but a lot of women love the way that I sung. So being able to be a singer gave me diversity. So I said loving all women, because again, some girls like the rap, but many of the women love the way I sung and they love the way I dance. So I said loving all women. And then the third obvious part is pretty self-explanatory, because my real name is Lawrence. So the first 3 initials of my name is LAW. So I just said, okay. And then my brother started calling me Law anyway when we were kids. He never called me Lawrence. He just be like, yo, Law, come here. Like, whatever. Like, oh, okay. That kind of stuck with each other. And L is the 12th letter in the alphabet, hence Planet 12. And there are 12 notes in music. 12 is my favorite number. So that's where playing 12 comes from. It's all relative. It's science, man. Mathematics, baby.
Wow. Wow. So we're going to hear this track, Party Like We Used to. Now, Law,
Yes.
is there anything last you want to say to the peeps right now that are listening worldwide to you? Any advice you want to give during these hard times that we're going through?
I would pretty much say stay resilient, stay working, stay optimistic, because it's no time. The time when you're supposed to be negative, there will be all types of energies and people trying to stop you from doing what you need to do for yourself and even for your family. Remain strong. And it doesn't have to be the music industry. It could be anything that you're doing in life. It doesn't have to be music industry related. Just in general, that there's no testimony without a test. If you're not put to the test to remain, see, we as a people, especially for my Black people, I mean, for everybody too, but for my people, that's the world where we come from. It's a lot of different things. Oh, me and my mother got #1 album out right now on the blues charts, on the indie blues charts.
You and
me
who?
and my mom.
You and your
my
mom.
mother.
Oh,
Yes.
wow. Wow.
A band called Sam. We took over my grandfather's band and we did all his songs over, and we have a #1 song and a #1 album. So it's pretty awesome.
That's totally amazing, my brother. Well, let's check out your track. It's called Party Like We Used to by my man Law. Thank you so much for coming on to the Majic Show. Very interesting interview.
Thank you, man.
We get nothing but the best. Here we go. Majic Mike in that mix. COVID digital takeover. Either you roll with it, it's going to roll against you. Thank you so much for the love and support. Majic Productions had to make some big changes. You know what I mean? Before, it was like Majic Mike was in the water. He was swimming. You know what I mean? Now Majic Mike is going over hurdles, going over walls. You know what I'm saying? Look out. 2021, literally, it's a whole new ball game. And Majic Productions, we're rolling with that ball. In the mix. 1.